Hi, everybody, and welcome to this installment of the Foundation for Free Enterprise Education Speaker Series. Today, we're very excited to have with us Dr. George Garrow. George is the CEO of Primary Health Network, headquartered in Mercer County, Pennsylvania. George is a PA native, graduating from Laurel Highlands High School in Uniontown, which is in Fayette County. He earned his undergraduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania and his medical degree from Penn State University College of Medicine in Hershey. George completed an internal medicine residency in Denver, Colorado, and a fellowship in medical oncology at Vanderbilt University in Tennessee. He has served on the faculty at Vanderbilt and University of Rochester in Rochester, New York. In 2001, he returned home to Pennsylvania, and he joined the Primary Health Network as his chief medical officer in 2016. He is honored to have been asked to serve as PHN's chief executive officer in June of 2022. George, thank you for joining us today. I can't wait. It's going to be a great conversation. I'm ready to dive in. Welcome. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so very much for the invitation.
Yeah, so you have a great story, and we're going to dive right in. So you went to a lot of great schools, but you told me a professor once told you that you didn't belong in college. Talk a little bit about that and what motivated you to push through and continue.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so as you had mentioned, I grew up in Uniontown and graduated from Laurel Highlands High School. Had a great, high school experience, high school education, and was really delighted to have been accepted and to matriculate to the University of Pennsylvania. During my first semester, however, I realized, wow, it's an awful lot different at Penn than it was in high school. And quite honestly, I was sort of struggling trying to keep up with, the volume and the complexities of the things that they were teaching. So I actually scheduled an appointment to sit down with one of the professors, my calculus professor, as it turns out, and just said, I'm just, can you give me some pointers? I just, I'm really struggling, with getting my hands and head around all of this. And he went on to ask me my background, and that I graduated from a public high school in Fayette County, and most of the other kids in my calculus class had gone to much bigger schools or private schools or prep schools, and he looked at me and he said, I'm not sure you really belong here. And and for your listeners, I hope that you won't let anybody deter you from pursuing your dreams. In fact, when I graduated from high school, my dad gave me a pocket watch. And many of you may not even know what a pocket watch is, but it's a watch that you put in your pocket. And on the back of it, my dad had an inscription that said, live fast to your dreams, for through them you can fly. And so when I got back to my dorm room, I grabbed that watch and I thought, you know what, I do belong here. And I worked really hard, I studied hard, and I think I aced calculus. So again, to me, that was really a motivation to prove that no matter where you come from, you can succeed if you put yourself to it.
That's awesome advice. And quite honestly, I could have used that pocket watch because I got crushed in calculus, but that's another story for another day. So when you were a young kid, you always dreamed of being a physician. Looking back on that now and where you've come, is it all you thought it would be?
It's all that I thought it would be in the world. In my career, I'm kind of on the nearing the end of my career as a physician, practicing physician and administrator, and for the young folks that are listening to this, I really envy the things that you will see in your career and in your lifetime in medicine and healthcare will be phenomenally fantastic and exciting. I look back, at my early days in healthcare and compare that to some of the things that we're able to do now, the technologies, the diagnostic tests, the targeted therapies, the monoclonal antibodies, antibiotics that we could only have dreamt of. The technological advances are without question going to be so exciting. However, I think the single most important thing that raised me up during my career were the relationships and the people that I've been able to meet and work with along the way. Colleagues, co-workers, patients, and their families have taught me so much about what's important in life. And I am so grateful for them to help me along this amazing journey. So in answer to your question, has it been everything that I expected? Yeah, and even more.
That's awesome. That is perfect advice, and I hope everybody heard that. If you didn't hear it, run it back, listen to it again. So, George, tell us what do you have to do to become a physician today? In other words, what would you recommend young people study as an undergrad in college? What would what skills would you recommend that they start developing? What core strengths should they have, as an undergrad, as they, get ready to choose a medical school and all that kind of stuff? Give me a little, progression of how they should get started.
Right. Yeah. So the medical schools do require a strong foundation in the biologic sciences, biology, chemistry, organic chemistry, physics. So those core courses are important. But the other courses that you take are, in my mind, also very important. Literature, humanities, writing skills are, really essential. I think another professor at medical school actually told me the most important diagnostic tool that we use as a physician is not a CAT scan, it's not a PET scan or an MRI scan. It's listening to the patients. And so having some ability to actively listen and to be present in an interaction in a relationship with patients and your coworkers and colleagues is critically important. Obviously, I think developing good study habits is important. Setting aside some time to, read and understand and ask questions of your professors is, important. But equally important is self-care. Many careers, including those in healthcare, physicians and others, are demanding, physically, emotionally demanding. And if there's one piece of advice that I would love to pass on is that you need to take care of yourself as well. When you're on an airplane and the flight attendant says, if there's a loss of cabin pressure, put your own oxygen mask on before you help somebody else. And it's the same thing in medicine and healthcare. You need to take care of yourself so that you can be present to help take care of others. So I would encourage folks to incorporate a balance in their life and find time for meditation, relaxation, physical activity. And that's something that I've carried forward all these years, that finding that balance is really important.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. So, George, describe, for those of us that don't know anything about, how you, matriculate through the system or whatever, describe the intern and resident structure in more detail, if you could, like what hours you get to get into, the rotations, all these kinds of things that, people would want to know or need to know what they're getting into.
Sure. So after, it's usually during the junior year in undergraduate that you kind of start to prepare to apply for medical schools for taking the MCATs, which is the entrance exam, much like the SAT to get into college. The MCATs are an entry exam to get into medical school. And after people make the application to medical school and their application is complete, they may be invited to go to interview at a medical school. And that's really that's kind of, you get to know the medical school and the medical school gets to know the student. During medical school time, it's typically a 4-year experience. There are some programs that matriculate students earlier as an undergrad, and they, kind of do it double at the same time. But generally speaking, the average duration of medical school is usually 4 years. During the 4th year, you have the opportunity to apply and interview at residency programs on your field of interest. It could be pediatrics, it could be OBGYN, psychiatry, orthopedics, surgery, internal medicine, family medicine, ER. I mean, there's just a myriad of opportunities. And you kind of, during medical school, you kind of find what excites you and what you're passionate about. And then graduate from medical school and begin your postgraduate year 1, PGY1, which is the internship. Generally speaking, internships are an opportunity to kind of, learn a lot of different things, new things, hands-on things, caring for patients. You always have someone who backs you up. The resident, senior residents, and the attending is always there to make sure that they're kind of guiding you along the way to do the right things. And it's a gradual learning process. As you get into your PGY 2 year, your 2nd year, you get a little bit more responsibility, and 3rd year and 4th year, and it sort of gradually increases over time. But there's always someone there to support you and help to back you up. Internships and residencies are much more humane now than they were back when I was in training. The hours were really long and grueling. And there are now regulations and restrictions that limit the amount of hours that an intern or resident has to put in, which I think is actually really a good thing because it really it did create a lot of stress and anxiety, and it really was not a learning environment. And so giving credit to the graduate medical training programs, they realize that it's really important that folks, not get burned out and, work and learn in a supportive and nurturing environment. Generally speaking, it's, probably 40 to 60 hours a week. Sometimes you're on call, or, you're working nights or you get called at night. But again, the main component of those internship and residencies is a supportive, nurturing, learning environment.
That's great to hear. I mean, all of us old school people think, these guys were working 36 straight hours and they're exhausted. And to be honest with you, if I were a patient, I want my physician being rested and alert and oriented and all those kinds of things. So that's great to hear. I'm glad that there's, been a shift toward that. Fantastic. So along that line, you talked a lot about, specialties and all this kind of thing. Today, George, what is the greatest need in the medical field? Is it nurses? Is it general practitioners? Everybody wants to seem to specialize these days. What do you see as the greatest need out there, not only now, but maybe in 5-10 years down the road? Where are the opportunities going to be, and what is our American medical community going to need?
Yeah, awesome question. So, yes, all of the above. There's a tremendous need, and if you please allow me to describe through COVID, and as we're coming to a different phase of the public health emergency, one lesson that we learned at my community health center is the importance of having an interdisciplinary team. And really healthcare, particularly primary care, but really all specialties, really is a team game. and we need the input from everyone on that team. So who's on the team? Well, we have, the front office. When someone comes in and they check in for their appointment, they're the first people that interact with the patient and their family, and they can give, a lot of information about how the patient presents today. They seem upset. They seem really happy. They have good news to share. So we want them to share that with us. Then there are the medical office assistants, the individuals that room the patients and take their vital signs and review their medications, make sure we have accurate information. Critically important part of the team. Nurses, licensed practical nurses and registered nurses that, do an assessment, do the vital signs. Critically important part of the team. Obviously, the providers, physicians, nurse practitioners, physicians assistants, that are interacting with the patient and making diagnoses and treatment plans. Importantly, there are components, members of the team that help the patients after the visit. Social workers to make sure that if there's a social need, people need help with transportation or food, social workers can help us to bridge those gaps. We actually now have an army of what we call community health workers, which are really peers for patients, and they work with them out in the community to meet their needs and make sure that they're, able to get the services and care that they need. So, while being a physician or being a licensed provider is, an important, part of that team, for anyone who's listening to this interview, if you have a passion to serve, a call to service, to help improve the health and well-being of your community, there are so many options for service. And I would encourage you, to find wherever that fits, your interest, your skill set, your time. It's a call to service, and we could use folks, at any one of those levels.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about, real briefly, what's the best part about being a physician, and maybe what are some of the pain points? You don't have to get into a lot of detail here, but best thing about being a physician, some of the things that you may not like.
Yeah, awesome question. So the best part, I'll start with that. The best part, again, is the relationships and the folks that I've met along this incredible journey. Patients who have taught me so very much about what's important in life. I'm a cancer specialist, and sitting with patients as they're kind of looking at the final chapter in their time in this realm, and sharing with me what they learned and things for which they were grateful. Families of my patients who allowed me to be part of their family during a time of vulnerability. My colleagues, the nurses, the staff that I've been able to work with who've taught me so much. So without question, it's the relationships and the people that have been the best part. The pressure point, the pain point, probably has been trying to keep up. It's, healthcare is a rapidly evolving, rapidly changing profession. And I sort of made a commitment that to myself and to my patients and my community that I wanted to be on the top of my game and to be up to date and current and, stay current so that I could give good advice or provide accurate information. And so finding the time and the resources to stay current and to read and study has probably been the most difficult time, particularly during COVID, because things were really changing quickly. However, wow, the things that I have learned along the way and continue to learn every day. An adage that I repeat often is, I am not an expert. I'm just on a journey, and the journey continues.
That's fantastic. That was a spot on answer. I loved it. So let's switch gears a little bit. You're now the CEO of a large medical network. Describe a little bit about PHN and a typical day looks like for you, and how did you make that transition from, frontline physician to managing a large healthcare network?
Yeah. Yeah. So I developed an interest in becoming part of the management team or administration in healthcare because I really saw an opportunity to advocate for our patients, advocate for our communities. As you mentioned earlier, I was so fortunate to have been invited to join Primary Health Network in 2016 as the Chief Medical Officer, an important part of our executive team. I was attracted to come to work at Primary Health Network because I believe very, very deeply in our mission. Primary Health Network is what's called a federally qualified health center, or an FQHC, sometimes also known as a community health center. And community health centers like mine, our mission is to provide access to care, good quality care to everyone in our community, regardless of their ability to pay. We don't turn anyone away. So if folks have a commercial insurance or Medicare, we take great care of them. If they're on Medicaid, which is the state insurance program, we love them and we take great care of them too. Even if folks don't have any insurance at all, we love them and we take great care of them. Because of that, we see individuals who may have, challenges, financial insecurity, housing insecurity, food insecurity, literacy concerns. And so not only do we want to address their medical needs, but also their psychosocial needs so that they can heal and achieve optimum health. And very commonly, if someone had asked, and sometimes even if they didn't ask, I would say that being the chief medical officer at a community health center was the best job I've ever had. And then in June, incredibly honored to have been asked to serve as the chief executive officer. And so far, this is the best job I've ever had. I just get to work with some amazing people who are dedicated to our mission. At the end of the day, every day, when I walk to my car, I'm always blown away by, wow, look what we got to do today. Look what we did today. It's incredible.
You may laugh, but I'm with you. I am grateful every day for the people I work with, for what we get a chance to do, to maybe change a young life and to give them some direction. You're doing the exact same thing. We're two very lucky or blessed individuals. Glad to hear that. That was a fantastic answer. So, George, as we get ready to kind of wrap this up a little bit, to our listeners who want to follow a similar path to you, maybe transition from, the frontline healthcare to, managing a healthcare group, what skill set or what additional studies could they take on, to kind of make that transition a little bit easier?
Yeah, I think it gets back to, skill set is listening, listening to the folks that work with you, problem solving, being present and mindful, all of those things that make us, good healthcare providers, I think will also make for a good executive, administrator, or supervisor. Obviously, I've been very fortunate to take some courses along the way and pursue a master's degree, some introductory courses in management, how to manage people is, probably the most interesting part of what I do every day is, coaching and helping others to be the very best that they could possibly be. My advice is to, someone who's interested in that is to find a mentor, find someone, a role model that, you could talk to and, ask them, hey, how did you get here? Any advice? Can I, where can I turn next to maybe get a little bit more experience in this and see if you really like it?
Perfect. All right. Final question. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received? And finally, what is the greatest piece of advice from your wealth of experience and your entire journey that you want to leave with our listeners who are contemplating a field in medicine or managing medical practice? Best piece of advice you've ever got, best piece of advice you could ever give.
Yeah, so best piece of advice, I'm going to go back to the beginning, is that's watch. And my dad, who was an amazing man, a great father. Hold fast to your dreams, for through them you can fly. Stay with it. You're going to, there's times when you're going to get knocked down and you're going to skin your knees. Get back up and follow your heart. So that's probably the best piece of advice that I've ever given or received. Best piece of advice I've ever or that I could give is, and I may be paraphrasing here, but a quote from Maya Angelou that people may not remember what you did or what you said, but people will remember how you made them feel. And use every occasion to make someone feel loved, to show kindness, to make them feel comfortable and welcome, and people will never forget.
What a way to finish. George, listen, I cannot tell you what a great conversation this was. Fantastic. Love your approach to life. Love your approach to your career. It's just more than a career. It is I can't even put it in words. Let everybody take away what they will from this. Fantastic conversation. Thank you so very much for everything. Viewers, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get in touch with George, we'll have hopefully his contact information if you want to do a little deeper dive or whatever, if you're need some more clarification on anything we've covered today. But George, listen, from our entire foundation, thank you so very much for a fantastic conversation. Good on you. You hit on a lot of the stuff that we try to live every day. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the work that you're doing in this space. It's really, really important, and I really appreciate this opportunity.
As do we. Thanks.